You look at this game against the Chicago Bears, and you can't help but feel the sting deep in your gut. This wasn't supposed to be a loss. Everything was lined up for the Raiders to walk away with a win. The defense had been ferocious for most of the afternoon. Max Crosby was a nightmare for Chicago on nearly every snap. Ashton Genty put together one of the most electrifying games of his young career, and the running game gashed the Bears' defense with ease. The offensive line didn't even allow a sack, even after losing Colton Miller, their anchor, to a high ankle sprain. And yet somehow, in the most Raiders way possible, they still managed to choke it away. 25-24. Not against a powerhouse contender like the Chiefs or the Bills, but against the Chicago Bears, a team led by Caleb Williams, a rookie still learning the ropes of NFL defenses. The Bears had no business leaving Allegiant Stadium with a victory. But they did, because the Raiders handed it to them on a silver platter. And let's not sugarcoat it. This wasn't just disappointing, it was embarrassing. The Raiders should have won this game by 3 touchdowns. Instead, they drowned themselves in turnovers, sloppy execution, and a special teams meltdown that sealed their fate. Raider Nation has seen heartbreak before, but this one felt like déjà vu. Another reminder that this franchise finds ways to lose games that competent organizations find ways to win. The main culprit? Geno Smith. At some point, the excuses have to stop. 6, maybe 7 interceptions on the season already, 3 of them coming in this very game. This isn't about tipped passes or bad luck. This is a quarterback making poor reads, forcing throws that aren't there, and sinking his team in the process. He finished with just 117 yards passing. In today's NFL, you don't win games putting up those kinds of numbers, especially not when you're giving away free possessions. 2 of those interceptions directly led to Bears points. That's at least 10 points Geno handed away, and in a 1-point game. That's the difference between walking off the field victorious and walking away humiliated. And here's what makes it sting even more. The offensive line actually did their job. They gave Geno time. They opened holes for Genty, who shredded the Bears for 138 rushing yards. They kept their quarterback clean. No sacks, no excuses. Geno had protection. He had a running game, and he still didn't deliver. But the offense wasn't the only disaster. Special teams turned into a circus act when Jacob Bobbin Moyer, the long snapper, got exposed. The Bears figured out his tell he moves the ball before he snaps it tanned. They timed their rush perfectly. That detail turned into a game-deciding play when Josh Blackwell came off the edge and blocked. Daniel Carlson's 54-yard field goal attempt, think about that. Despite all the turnovers, despite the miscues, the Raiders still had a chance to steal the game. But they couldn't even execute a basic field goal operation because of a long snapper's giveaway. That's the kind of mistake that defines losers, not contenders. And yes, the coaching staff deserves blame. Pete Carroll was supposed to be the steady hand, the veteran coach who knows how to weather storms and manage chaos. Instead, his Raiders keep collapsing in familiar, predictable ways. Chip Kelly was supposed to bring innovation and creativity. But the offense looks flat, uninspired, and completely out of sync. How do you have a weapon like Brock Bowers and only scheme him into a handful of catches for 46 yards? How do you feed Ashton Genty for nearly 140 yards on the ground? Gash the defense at almost 8 yards a pop, and still only manage 24 points. That's not just a failure, it's malpractice. Even the defense, which carried the Raiders for most of the game, folded when it mattered most. For 3 quarters, they were excellent, holding Chicago to field goals, rattling Caleb Williams, and giving the offense every opportunity to pull away. But when it mattered most, with the game on the line, they allowed Williams to lead an 11-play, 69-yard march straight into the end zone for the go-ahead touchdown. Elite defenses don't fold in crunch time, but the Raiders did. And here we are again, talking about the same old story. Quarterbacks throwing picks, special teams getting embarrassed, defenses collapsing in critical moments, and coaching staffs unable to adjust. It's the pattern Raider Nation has lived through for years. Last season, it was blown red zone chances and late-game collapses. This season, it's turnovers and mental mistakes. Different players, same results. Digging deeper into Geno Smith's play, the picture only gets uglier. His first interception was a late throw into tight coverage, the kind of rookie mistake you can't afford from a veteran. His second was a forced ball on a concept they drilled all week something. Carroll himself admitted Geno nailed in practice but completely failed in live action. Practice reads don't mean anything if you can't translate them to the field. Then came the miscommunication, the yelling at Trey Tucker, the linemen looking lost, receivers out of sync. It wasn't just Geno's fault, it was an entire offense falling apart, exposed by a Bears defense that shouldn't have been able to dictate anything. And let's talk about personnel decisions. Dante Thornton keeps getting snaps, but for what? He's not producing, he's not making the big plays, and in critical moments, he's invisible. If you can't trust him in the red zone, why is he out there? Why not scheme more touches to your reliable weapons instead of wasting downs? Then there's the offensive balancer, the lack of it. The Raiders were averaging 7.7 yards per carry as a team, with Raheem Mostert ripping off big gains every time he touched the ball. The ground game was unstoppable. And yet, Chip Kelly insisted on putting the ball in Geno's hands. Why? Why not bleed the clock, ride the hot hand, and let the run game win it? Instead, they gambled on their quarterback and lost everything. So where do the Raiders go from here? That's the million-dollar question. Do you bench Geno? Fans are already calling for it. Do you hand the reins to Kenny Pickett or roll the dice on Cam Miller, sparking some magic? Maybe, but the reality is, the Raiders are financially tied to Geno for at least this season and next. Unless they're willing to eat that contract, they're stuck. And that's the scariest part. Because every game he starts, every interception he throws, the Raiders are wasting the prime years of Max Crosby and every other elite talent on this roster. And what about the leadership? How many more Sundays like this will Mark Davis tolerate? Pete Carroll was hired to stabilize the ship. But right now, he looks like a coach past his prime, clinging to outdated philosophies. Chip Kelly was brought in for offensive innovation. But all Raider Nation sees are stale concepts and wasted opportunities. It's not just about one bad game. This is about culture. About a franchise that has been drowning in mediocrity for years, finding new ways to lose instead of learning how to win. The Raiders should have crushed the Bears. Instead, they imploded. And until accountability takes root, until leadership, from the coaching staff to the front office, finally fixes this broken cycle, Raider Nation will keep reliving these gut punch losses over and over again.